We are recording and we are maybe live. Okay, awesome. Yep, we're recording and we're live. Hello, Michael.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for
With
having
me.
me.
Yeah, I was super excited to share space with you. And we just caught up. Like we had like just a deep dive catch up. I wish I was recording that because there were so many nuggets even in that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we got saucy
But
for a second.
yeah. So all right, friends, if you are watching live, we're streaming this live in the Illumination Leadership Facebook group. Please say hello. I know Carolyn was really excited to have you on today.
Oh,
I know
cool.
some of our Indiana peeps are watching live. So yeah, just say hello if you guys are here watching live, and let's go. Thanks for
Let's
being here,
go.
Michael. Yeah.
Come on.
Can you tell me a little bit about, you use such a great word. Is saucy your word right now?
Yeah, saucy's been the word. It's kind of good for everything, you know?
Yeah.
When things are really good, it's saucy. When things are really woo, it's saucy.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're not dipping, you're tripping. So you got to jump in the sauce, learn
Yeah.
to swim.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. So everybody, if you're new to Michael, if you're new to his, I don't even know. I don't even want to call it work in the world, because to me, you just kind of like just be in the world.
hmm
Like you're just like a master of beingness. And so yeah, like if you're new to Michael's beingness in the world, highly encourage you to connect with him on the interwebs in Austin, Texas. I listen to your Light Leader Mastermind teaching every quarter, once a quarter. I will go back and listen to that because it's just like such a beautiful reminder of the moreness of
hmm
this existence that we share. So
That's
thank you for your
yeah,
commitment to the
yeah.
magic.
Thank you. It's an everyday commitment.
Yeah.
The illusion gets thick sometimes, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So that, I mean, honestly, that's where I would love to start. Is would you share with us just kind of what have you been geeking out on lately? Because I know you're somebody who is always a student also.
Mm,
You stay a student and you stay
mhm.
curious. But yeah, what's been your practice lately?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I feel like I have like a buffet of different things and like I do things here and there, and then I switch to different things. Um, let's see. I was geeking out on Kriya Yoga for a minute,
Mhm.
and I actually had this guy on my podcast. His name's Zachary Adama, and I met him at a Wachuma ceremony that he was co-leading with Parker Sherry that we were talking about earlier, and he's just somebody that I really, really respect. You know, you can like feel someone's presence, and he was a lawyer, and he had this experience in his office where he said he had lightning bolts shoot through his entire body, lightning bolts of bliss, became one with everything. He wasn't into spirituality. He had no spiritual practice. He was an atheist when it happened.
Mm.
But he said he had a lot of Shakti and he was power hungry. But he started having this thought or this philosophical contemplation that everything might be a great thought rather than a great clock, the universe. And
Mm.
that thought shot the Shakti up into his heart, had this enlightenment experience, lasted for a few weeks. He said after a few weeks, his ego came back about 80%. And since then, he's been practicing the science of Kriya Yoga. And seeing him, I was just like, I mean, it's a science. It's the enlightenment is a science of lightening up and clearing the nervous system. And so that's very fascinating to me. So I was geeking out on that for a minute, and I still am. It's a process that's like you have to trust because you don't always see like the big effect immediately.
Mhm.
But it's so yeah, that I honestly it's like not even so much a bunch of new stuff. It's kind of the same things,
Mhm.
just going deeper and deeper. It's the cycles, you know, realizing that like just deeper realizations of like we are God, you
Mhm.
know, and like what does that actually mean to know that I am an and you know I'm a fraction of the one, but also I contain it all. And then what does that look like in my life and in this illusion? You know, I just got back from an ayahuasca the craziest one I've ever been a part of, ceremony in Asheville. And yeah, I had this what felt like primordial energy channeling through me for like 2 hours. And that was like, whoa, it was most sacred thing that's like ever happened to me. And I came back and I just saw this like magic, and I was just like, okay, so what does that look like to
Yeah.
act like that every day?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's always real. That's always here,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And how can I bring that into my reality every single day? How would I see this situation? How would I see myself,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that that is reality, not this? So,
Yeah, that's a huge practice. And I was actually talking to my friend Lindsay about that yesterday. Like, we have these profound experiences on the spiritual path or on the growth path, and then it's like the real work is integrating them here and bringing them here and making them accessible. Like, I think Parker would say this, para bien de todos, right? For the good of
mhm.
all. Like,
Yeah,
how do we take these out of this world, like awakening moments, and how do I bring it back to Terre Haute, Indiana, where we're in one of the most like poverty stricken areas of our town, and let that energy do what it's supposed to do without force,
right.
right? So what have you come up with that? Like, how do we do it?
Yeah, I mean, so for one, I asked to see heaven, right? In this ceremony, I asked to see like my higher self, and I felt like that it was so much more than like my higher self, you know? It was this force that like took over me, and this I felt like heaven opened up. And I remember I had tears streaming down my face because I felt like I know I'm gonna forget, and I know I'm gonna go back into the dream. Like I know it's gonna happen, but the glory was so intense and so beautiful, and I was just overwhelmed, and it was like that's the point. Like I made the dream. I
Mhm.
made the dream not to get out of the dream, like yes, but it's the process of figuring it out. Know that it's a game. Don't take it so seriously.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways of doing that is to become more lighthearted. I think anyone who has like enough psychedelic experiences, you start realizing that there's a cosmic joke going on.
Yeah.
And anytime I've had like a really intense one, I might go through a deep process of crying or whatever, but then it usually ends up in laughter and just complete bliss. And I think I've heard this, and I think it's really important. It feels very simple, but the first step to enlightenment is to lighten up, you
Yeah.
know, and to become like a child, Jesus said. And he said, seek first the kingdom of heaven, which you can't do unless you become like a child, and everything else will be added. So, really, he's saying, in order to bring heaven to earth, and in order for that to be like, instead of trying to manifest heaven on earth,
Yeah.
if you become like a child and lighten up and enter this place of flow, like flow is order.
Mhm.
And I think from that space, that's how heaven gets brought to earth, is by um deep inquiry. Like, what is keeping me, like stress is fear, all this is fear. Where does my fear, and like your fear is your next step, and how can I lighten up in this situation? And all that is really like, where am I not trusting this magic? And I think
Yeah.
the more I wake up every day and I ask, what is the tiniest thing I'm avoiding? you know
Mhm.
could be one little text message that I haven't sent that I forgot, and like, it's, oh, I gotta, like, it's awkward or something. The time, like, what, I didn't clean my car, but I told myself, where's the tiniest thing I'm procrastinating, and how can I choose to like go into those any areas of tension, lighten up, live in the moment, and yeah, just face all the tension.
Yeah.
I think that's the place really what it comes down to, is like, instead of trying to manifest change, it
Mhm.
comes down to like, stop trying to, and just get into a place of alignment within yourself, and then live in the moment and just do the next thing, and it just starts
Yeah.
happening.
I feel that. And I feel like that's a great message for all of our community here, this leadership community, because it is that dance of creating in the 3D, like very much like creating the things, which can, that like illusion based fear and stress can easily be brought into these bigger creations, because so many of us are creating brand new systems too. But the
Hmm.
new systems, the new ways of being in the world, parenting, birthing, all of it it can't not be infused with the lightness.
Yeah.
It can't not have that present. Like,
It's the funny like both and, right? It's like
yeah.
death and life are the same, you know, the same coin. So
Mhm.
it's like fear, right? Or any of this, is death. But on the other side of death is more joy, more freedom, more expansion. Ram Dass says, death is like taking off a tight shoe.
Mhm.
So when you're before your death, it's like, oh, I'm so scared, it's so fearful. But like what is death but an expansion of our identity, which is an expansion of what we think is possible, our reality tunnel, which when it expands, it's a death because it's actually diving into the unknown, which is where
Mhm.
magic happens. So really, I feel like all of life, the universe is pushing us towards death because death is just the doorway into more life. So when the fear comes up, it's really like here's a gift, because on the other side of that, there's more freedom, more joy. So find your fear and don't see it as a challenge, see it as an opportunity where it's a doorway into more of who you actually are.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that you mentioned like being more childlike and bringing that
Mhm.
childlike enthusiasm into this now reality. And so many people around me have kids. I know so many people in the Austin community are bringing children around. Um, what have you heard, or what do you know about the children coming in now and how we can show up even in that space?
I mean, what I've heard from
Yeah.
different channels and stuff is that actually the children coming in now are actually a different species of human. They're not just like human, they're actually a different species. And so, uh, which, who knows? I mean, I have my whole thoughts on like what's happening in the next whatever with, all of this, but that's a whole thing. Um, but I think that, yeah, I was just talking to someone yesterday. I'm like, I think if you want to see, enlightenment, look at a child. They're the most enlightened being,
Mhm.
and they probably trigger you because they're so just playful in the moment. They're so carefree. Um, and I was in the hospital a couple days ago with, I'm talking about Parker, and we were all in this place, and there was I was giving someone a hug, and as I opened my eyes again, his daughter, who is like probably 4 years old, runs up to me and just like gives me this huge hug, and it just melted. I mean, she was doing it to everyone, melted everyone's heart. Um, but yeah, I see that children are, the most purest reflection of innocence of
Mhm.
of what we actually are. So you want to see like what to do. Essentially, look at the child,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we're returning to. I think we're returning to a childlike state. um like I just have a new dog, and it's funny, like the same thing with the child. The dog is very
Yeah.
innocent and playful, and I noticed that my dog is in the moment, is very happy. If I'm not in alignment, my dog triggers me so much.
Mhm.
It's always like, not not right now, like it's not a good, like stop doing this, like. And it's a great barometer just to see, like, am I relaxed in the moment, lighten up, am I being playful? And so
Yeah.
it's cool to see that reflection. I don't know if that answered your question at
No,
all.
you did. Yeah, you did. And I think about that a lot. I'm going to have so much to say about, I have a lot of reflections on pregnancy and birth and all of that now, but I've been thinking about that, kind of what you were just speaking to, like, even when they're growing now, like, and I think about, because my birth is so close, I'm like, this is not just me, like, bringing forth this being. It's like, no, the baby's involved. Like, the baby
Hmm.
knows, has a timeline, has a plan, knows what to do. Like, this is an intelligent being coming in. Like, so I love that, like, to honor the intelligence of all. Like, I think, I know I was definitely conditioned to be like, the older you are, the wiser you are, the more whatever, status, or, but it's like, no, it's literally infused in everything,
Yeah. It's
everything.
it's almost like the opposite, right? It's like
Yeah.
returning to that. And that's weird because in physical reality, it looks like they're younger than us, but their soul could be older than our soul. And sometimes the most advanced beings might come in. And I even see it with like miscarriages or abortions or stuff. It's like those souls they know what's going to happen. Like they incarnate for a reason, maybe to teach
Mhm.
some kind of a lesson or give some kind of reflection to the parent. And it's not really like children, it's really just a soul. It's an advanced consciousness. And so I think, obviously, like a child in physical reality is very innocent to learn from them, but also seeing that these are not just like, these are advanced souls that are coming in and serving very specific reasons. And it's really just like returning to that innocent state as much as possible, which is the present moment, just not
Mhm.
being here. Kids don't try and figure life out, they just experience life.
Mm.
And and then as we grow older, it's like we're trying to figure things out. The more we get in our mind, the more we try and figure it out, the more life becomes a puzzle and pushes back against us.
Mhm.
But it's like if you just become like a child, everything else will be added. Jesus kept saying it.
Yeah.
I have to keep reminding myself like every day, but
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the fun. I mean, that's the fun part. And the fun part of being in community and having people like this, like the communities we have who can remind us, like, yeah, it's serious and it's not, it's a big deal and it's not.
yeah, that's the craziest thing. I always think about that. It's like, it's the weird, it's like, okay, I'm going to live forever, but also only ever be this version of myself.
Right.
This Michael will never live again. It will never experience me, and I will always live forever. And so it's this like, in that way, it's like, it's serious, sacred work. And at the same time, it's just a big game. And it's this both and, which is so, I think that's what makes it so sacred,
Yeah.
because it's both at the same time. It's serious and a complete joke, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And isn't that like, that's a testament of our individual growth here in this time around, this go around, is like our ability to hold both
Right.
at one time. Like, we both know we've both had people that we love dearly pass in the last
Yeah.
month. And it's
Yeah.
like, can I deeply grieve this loss and also know that there is more at play and feel, I almost felt like with this loss of my sister this year, like more of an activation of peace within me versus like before when I would lose someone close to me, I'd be unsettled or I'd be like questioning or,
Mm.
let it wash me away. But now it's like, no, I feel like it's activated more deep peace and sadness. Like, yes, I'm sad
Right.
that physical form, I don't get to have that physical relationship anymore, but I'm there's like so much peace from it.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Um, they say to the level of grief is also, that means how much there was that love,
Yeah.
So grief and love are really, again, the same coin.
Mhm.
Like deep grief just means how much love was there. And yeah, I feel that, the same the past few days, losing, my buddy Parker. It's like, but also it's like, wow, like I've never seen him in the how I have in the past few days, because now he's always on my mind, and now I'm seeing his characteristics and his attributes, and I'm actually like feeling why he was the way he was, who he was. And now it's like, it's a messenger to like, I want to embody that. It's like, um and yeah, and knowing that they're conscious, like they are never gone. I feel like when we feel that sadness, it's actually us feeling their spirit. Maybe we're
Mhm.
filtering it through some kind of a lens that translates it as sadness, but it's us interacting with their consciousness. We're feeling them. And
Mhm.
it's like, can I feel the grief, but also like, what is this here to show me? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm a better person in the past week because of what happened to my buddy Parker than before this. Like, my heart is cracked open,
Mhm.
and this level, like I'm seeing the sacredness of life in just a completely different way. I'm slowing down and just like, and yeah, death is a huge teacher, and yeah.
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 Yeah. I know. I'm not watching the comments on the live, but let us know how this is landing for you guys. Because we're all experiencing so much on different levels too, that like to have language and to have space for like how dynamic life is really getting.
Yeah. It's like one day they're just like flying high, and the next day it's just like like what's happening, and it's just this like,
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a great segue into, I think this will probably be the last question because we could probably jam out on this for a minute.
Yeah.
I think this will be helpful for our peeps on here. Can you give us your language, what you've learned, what you've kind of like witnessed about what are the dimensions?
Ooh, like
Like,
dimensions in reality.
yeah, like what are dimensions in reality? Like, yeah, give
All
us some.
right. Yeah. So I don't know if anyone's familiar with the law of one. Channel text from Ra. Now, dimensions and densities are a little bit different. Um, like dimensions would be like, like dimension one is a point, dimension two is, forward and backward, dimension three is space, dimension four is time. Um, but I like to see what most people think of as dimensions as densities. And so I've gotten this from the law of one, and I see there's 7 densities, and which creates an octave. And this is basically how consciousness evolves. And so dimension or density 1 would be like a rock. It has no self-awareness in and of itself. It's like bacteria or a rock. It's like there's no awareness. And actually how consciousness evolves, how that consciousness evolves into a higher density, which is essentially just a higher frequency, it's a higher density of light, is by us looking at the rock. So the rock knows it's a rock by us acknowledging it's a rock. And so it uses our awareness to evolve its consciousness. And then from that level, uh, consciousness goes into the second density. And second density would be like the plants in the animal kingdom. And so, plants they're intelligent, and I believe they process time way differently. They're like, one moment is like infinity to them. Its time is very spread out. And um, animals also have and there's different like levels within each density. So like you might notice that some dogs feel like people and some dogs feel like very just animalistic. And that's the evolution of through consciousness of second density. But when you get a pet, for instance, and you start calling them a name, you say, saying, hey, you, it starts turning its awareness in on itself and realizing, oh, I'm a separate thing. And it starts becoming self-aware. And as consciousness starts becoming self-aware, it evolves in a third density, which would be humans. And then in third density, you have, hopefully I'm not doing too much on this, but so third density, then you start creating polarity. And so you have negative and you have positive polarity. And now the entity or the conscious or the gets to choose which path does it want to explore. And not one's better than the other. The negative needs the positive needs the negative. It's not evil or good, it's just mechanics of energy. And so now we get to explore which polarized version of consciousness we want to do. And so, yeah, so third density creates free will and self-awareness. And then as we do that, we go into fourth density. Fourth density is the level of the heart space, and it is love. But you can be negatively polarized in this fourth density because you can actually be self-absorbed, like loving yourself into an unbalanced place. I believe Jesus was a fourth density consciousness. He came to show unconditional love. And that's the level of, unconditional love. But you can be, again, in that place of so absorbed with your own self-love that it becomes negative. So you can even evolve to fourth density in a negative space. And the next one is fifth density. Fifth density is the place of wisdom. But again, you can get so stuck in the head. Sixth density, you start becoming a more of like a collective mind, where it's just like pure telepathy or telepathy, which is really just being in the heart space, having the same thoughts at the same time. And then seventh density, I think we don't even have any explanation for. I will say that as consciousness evolves through the densities, any negatively polarized being cannot go higher than sixth density because the love is so intense that it literally can't stabilize, because the negative energy by its nature pulls apart and separates. So it actually needs a lot of effort to stay together. But positive energy, by its nature, unifies, pulls together. So it's very congruent. So it doesn't need as much effort. It's just, and so if someone chooses a negative polarity after fifth density, it will boom shift back into positive polarity because the love is too intense. So that's, and then seventh density, and then it pops into a new octave, and from there, I don't know. You know? So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, and obviously within that there's way more, but that's kind of like a base of how I see densities and dimensions as well. They kind of weave in and out, but
Yeah. So when you're doing your magic and when you're performing magic and like, because I've seen you more of like stuff that I've seen, you know, I only see videos and stuff that you sometimes release, but like, especially when you have a group like together, it's almost like, are you embodying like a higher density to bring that like love in that like wonder and that awe?
yeah, I think anytime, and yeah, and I would even say like, even if you want to think of like dimensions, like Neville Goddard talks about the fourth dimension as being like almost like the astral.
Mhm.
Um, and so these kind of like these words get kind of like interchanged and stuff and kind of confused. But yeah, I think anytime someone's in that place, they're expanding their awareness and bringing a heart coherence. Um, and I think like, I mean, we're tapped into all dimensions at all times. It's not like we're like not in those dimensions. I see as dimensions and densities as again levels of awareness. So
Mhm.
I think it's not that we actually go to a dimension. We are the dimensions that we think we live inside of. It's just our levels of awareness. Um, and so I do think we can kind of like, I think essentially we're in, or we're operating as one, but within that one you can kind of stretch it or narrow it and maybe enter in a little bit of a different one and maybe come back. And so yeah, like when you're in a different state or changing your frequency, I think you can almost travel
Mhm.
dimensions. um Wake in our conscious place, in our dream state, I think we're constantly traveling and through different dimensions. And I think when you're in that place of like pure just oneness, you know, you're doing what you love to do, you're in that channeling state, I think you are expanding. What dimension is it exactly? I don't know.
Mhm.
But you're becoming more of who you think you are. It's kind of like, I don't even know how I said that or what I'm doing,
Mhm.
because you're just expanding into a greater reality that just seems to operate through you, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Thank you so
You do
much.
too. Of
Wow.
course.
Bam, how did that land? Comment, let us know. You know, this is just like a little boop into, you know,
Little
Michael's
boot.
world, a little like, hey, the journey continues and it always unfolds. And I love that we get to share space like through different parts of each of our journeys. So thank you so
Mm.
much for taking the time.
Yeah. Thank you. I always love talking with you, and yeah, it's always fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you just make me, it's like nostalgic, my Austin family, you know, like Austin, just like, oh, so many good beings. So
Yeah. Well, we're always here for you if you ever want to
yeah.
come back and
Oh yeah, I'll
visit.
be there next year. I'll be bringing this little baby.
Come
Um,
on.
yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael. Would you be open to taking a deep breath with me?
I would love to.
Awesome. We'll take a big breath in and we'll let it go. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for showing up. That's another episode of Lighthouse live.
Bow, bow, bow,
Live.
bow, bow.
Awesome. All right.